Hello, good evening, and welcome to UPfront. My name is Raymond Acquah. Now, tonight, our conversation is about Ghana's current economy, and more importantly, the attempts to get us out of this current situation, this rather terrible situation that we find ourselves. This conversation will center around government's domestic debt exchange program. This is a quest to get us into a debt sustainable position so that we can get an IMF deal, which many believe would help us fix our current economic problems as a country. Now, one man who is my guest, he has been the governor of the Bank of Ghana, so understands the monetary policy issues. He has also been finance minister, so he has actually been part of the people who's taken us out of an IMF program in times past. He was the finance minister when Ghana had its highest growth rate. Now, some understanding of what we are, what the alternatives are, is what we want to explore with Dr. Kwabena Dufour. Doc, you're welcome to UPfront.
Thank you.
I hope you are doing well.
Very well. By His grace, I'm okay.
You don't look like a man affected by the haircuts going on in the country.
First, by His grace.
Okay, well, that's interesting to know. But first, now the chips are down. Government says it openly. And the finance minister just yesterday, when he was announcing a committee to deal with the current individual bondholders problem, said something categorical. The current state we find our economy is terrible, and that we need to do everything and get everybody on board to fix the problem. He also added that there is no alternative to the current state. Now, inflation is 54%. I mean, exchange rate, well, it recovered a little bit in December, but it's getting back to terrible times, which is quite surprising to some. If we move it along those lines, the projections for this year is going to be a difficult one. But we are having bigger difficulty getting an IMF deal because of the debt sustainability problem. I want us to track a little bit of history. You understand the finances of this country because you ran it before. How did we get here?
Thank you very much, young man. Thank you. You see, when you run an economy, you must make sure that your public finances do not deteriorate in the way we have experienced ours now. When your public finances deteriorate so badly, there will be a spillover effect into the external sector. And that would lead to what we term higher debt distress or debt unsustainability. You can't sustain your debt, meaning you are not able to pay your debt or bills. You talk about history. You see, we opted for HIPIC in 2001. By 2005, we had reached the completion point, and we enjoyed about $3.9 billion debt relief, forgiveness, about $3.9 billion. Between 2005 and 2008, the economy did very well. Revenue grew so well, GDP was so good. Indeed, the total government revenue and grants as a ratio of gross domestic product, which you call GDP, grew by 11.8% between 2005 and 2008. So, President Kufuor, within 2005-2008, grew the ratio by 11.8%. Between 2009 and 2012, the NDC administration under Mellos increased this ratio to 15.5%. Okay. So by the end of 2012, the total revenue and grants over GDP was 15.5%.
That's interesting.
it is sad to add that between 2012 and 2021, this ratio remained almost flat. Indeed, by the end of 2021, the ratio was 15.4%. If as a nation we had been able to sustain the growth rate of 3.7% every 4 years, understand? The ratio would have been 22.9% as of now.
Okay.
And would have been one of the highest, ratio promoters on the continent.
Okay.
And if we had been able to sustain it and had grown the ratio to 22.9%, we'll be getting, or would have got about 105 billion revenue at the end of 2021, and not 70 billion that we generated. You understand?
I get you.
Okay. 2021, what happened? The revenue was about 70 billion. If we had been able to sustain the growth systematically from 2005 to 2021 and had made 22.9%, our revenue would have been 105 billion, and not 70 billion that we made. And that would have strengthened the fiscal consolidation.
So we dropped the ball.
So there had been, or there were, revenue policy failures between 2012 and 2021. That's the genesis of what we're experiencing now. So when we experience deterioration in public finances, we have to resort to borrowing from domestic sources and have to even go outside to borrow. As I mentioned, deterioration in public finances will lead to what? A spillover into the external sector, which will lead to debt distress.
Now, this is interesting.
Okay.
Within that period, I recall massive debt mechanisms were introduced. We have ESLA along the line. We can consistently increase VAT. We actually brought up, in fact, excise duty and all of those ones. The major tax handlers still got some increase or were somehow remodeled in ways. So how come we're not able to ramp in enough revenue or increase the ratio you're talking about?
I think there was a shift in fiscal policy.
Okay.
See, there was not a real focus on the domestic resource mobilization as we had done previously. The focus was shifted to external borrowing. You understand? I get you. So 2013, for example, as a nation, we borrowed $1 billion from the Eurobond market. 2014, we borrowed $1 billion again. 2015, we borrowed $1 billion again. 2016, we borrowed $750 million. So for 4 years, we borrowed $3.75 billion. And if you look at the domestic mobilization, it was going down. Okay. And 2017, as a nation, we continued the borrowing from international
markets,
financial markets. 2 billion. So by the end of 2021, we have borrowed about $15 billion. So you see, it means for 8 years, Ghana borrowed $15 billion from the Eurobond market.
Instead of concentrating on domestic revenue ramping.
Exactly. But there's no substitute to domestic resource mobilization. Why? Domestic resource is what? Resources mobilized from your people to be used for your people. There's no substitute.
You mentioned this Eurobond thing, and it's a very controversial subject anyway.
Eurobond, 15 billion in 8 years. People are saying that it's not good. It is good. But it should go into projects with high economic returns.
Okay.
Projects which can pay for themselves. You know what? You know what is very good? There's no doubt about that. But it should not go into consumption.
Okay.
Because you say it's very expensive. It's described as a non-concessional facility. It has short-term maturities, high debt service. So if it doesn't go into a project that can pay for itself, you have a problem. In fact, international banking referred to as a bullet facility. Bullet because you pay the interest during the maturity, during the period. If it's every month, every quarter, every year, you pay the interest.
Which is the interest payments we consistently talk about.
Sure. So during the maturity, you pay the principal at the go. Boom.
Oh, I see.
That's what we call bullet. So if you did not invest in projects with high economic returns, how would you pay the principal when it matures?
As a project that can pay for itself.
Yes. So if it goes into projects with high economic returns, on maturity, you'll be able to pay.
But I thought that's what we said we were doing when we called it smart borrowing. When we said we're going to borrow to do projects like the Terminal 3 and other things, which were supposed to be raking in money so that they can pay for itself. In fact, it was the reason why we felt an addition of a sinking fund of a sort, where money will be guarded for future payments of this sort, were actually our alternative plans.
Yeah.
So we thought through this, didn't we?
On the ground, are we seeing that?
Okay.
You see, because of the structure of our balance of payments, if such facilities do not go into or are not used to fund projects with high economic returns, you end up going back to the same market to borrow to even service the loan. Because the balance of payments of this country cannot support such facilities. Why? If you look at export earnings for 2021, for example, the total export earnings came up to about $14.7 billion. And the three major items like cocoa, gold, and oil made up the bulk of this. Cocoa raked in about 2.8 or 2.9 billion dollars, gold about $5 billion, and oil about $3.9 billion. Now, if you remember, during the mini budget or the review of the economy, the finance minister mentioned it, that we exported $3.9 billion of oil, and our portion was only $513 million.
Very low.
Accounting for about 20%.
Yeah.
The same thing applies to gold. So the $14.7 billion, which we thought we had earned in our books, the portion that really impacts on government's cash flow is 30%, about $4.4 billion out of $14.7 billion. You understand me?
I get you.
Yeah. So the 70% is not yours. Now look at oil, which the Minister of Finance talked about. You exported $3.9 billion. You earned that from the oil trade. Yours was only $513 million. At the same time, as a nation, we imported $2.7 billion of petroleum products for our consumption. So for even the oil alone there was a deficit of about $2.2 billion.
Oh, I see.
So if you earned $513 million and you imported $2.7 billion, what's the difference? About $2.2 billion deficit. So our balance of payments can support Eurobond borrowing, if the funds are not in projects which can pay for themselves.
I'll come back to this point about what we should do, even in this year. But as we speak, there is a conversation that's important on our plate. Government says our path to debt sustainability is to do a domestic debt exchange program. It has a lot of controversies. Just yesterday, they formed a committee. The finance minister announced this committee, technical committee, to sit with individual bondholders to engage on the way forward. First, pension contributors were actually, pension bonds were taken out. Then individual bondholders are seeking a way out. Banks are rejecting the deal. Insurance are also rejecting the deal. From where you sit, and of course we've been told that there's no alternative to this. Is this domestic debt exchange program in its current form fit for purpose?
I think we should all look at it again. You see, it's about money. Mm-hmm. A very noble man years ago, somewhere said that, never treat money affairs with levity. Mm. Never treat money affairs with levity. Money is character. In the local palace, we had the music, we said, Sky Muja. Mm-hmm. What you manage, talk about money, be very careful. If it goes wrong, people can die. Yeah. So I think, much as we need to maybe use the bond, mm-hmm, or manage the bond in a way that will give us a very solid fiscal consolidation, mm-hmm, we should be careful about the lives of people.
Do you agree that a domestic debt exchange is the right way to go?
No, I am looking at the need to have strong fiscal consolidation. Okay. I'm a shareholder of a company. Mm-hmm. They're talking about taking some bonds. Nobody has consulted me. Nobody has told. I have no idea about that. I only heard it from the radio, and my children told me this was happening, but nobody has spoken to me. Now, we need to...
You, shareholder?
I'm a shareholder in the company.
As in, shareholders have not been consulted?
I have not been consulted. But let me come and say, if you look at the 137 billion old bonds, mm-hmm, that we want to exchange for new, the old bonds, the weighted average for their maturity, it's about 3.8 years. That's about 4 years. Okay. The coupon rate, the weighted average coupon rate, is about 19.1. The new ones they are introducing, the maturity will be what? About 9.5 from my own calculations. Okay. About 9.5, so almost 10 years. Mm-hmm. And the coupon rate attached to this is about 8.1. Okay. So in effect, they are saying that, yes, the loss we are experiencing, you take 55%, the bondholder, government, I'm taking 45%. And the loss is almost 60% to the bondholder. Mm. Government, about 40%, 40%. Looking at what's happening in the market now, the benchmark 91 TB rate, treasury bill rate, is about almost 35, about 34%. So if you were to buy treasury bills now, government, you will pay about 34%, wouldn't you? Yeah. I would have proposed that, yes, let's stretch the new bonds to 10 years or beyond. But looking at the market now and the economy now, the 19.1 coupon rate that old ones were enjoying, I'll keep it like that. Okay. And not 8.1. Mm-hmm. because the cost of borrowing to you government, you're going to borrow T-bills and pay 34%. Now, the bondholders enjoy 19.1%.
Less than the T-bill rate.
Yes, don't touch it. If you want to stretch it to 10 years, fine. But let them keep the 19.1, not 8.1. 8.1 is imposing huge losses. It will kill people. Let them keep the 19.1. Stretch it to 10 years. Because you are buying T-bills at 34, aren't you? You see, the whole debt, the domestic debt exchange program involves transfer of income
from the individual
and welfare from the private sector to the public sector, from individual to the government.
Is that right?
What's the implication? It should not be transferred from private to the government. It should be government to private.
Okay.
But if there's a problem, which all of us must help solve, we are solving, there should be a sharing of the burden. Not imposing the whole burden on the one who didn't even take part in managing the economy.
That's interesting.
We took part in managing the economy. The bondholder at home didn't take part. If you are punishing me, fine. Because for years I was involved in managing the economy. If you had done bad and you punished me before, fine. But a bondholder in my house who had no hand in managing the economy, who had no hand toward the deterioration of the public finances, they are being punished in this way. It will be fine. So I would propose that instead of the new bond attracting 8.1% coupon rate, they should maintain the 19.1% coupon rate on the old ones, like the old ones, and stretch it as they are stretching. 10 years, fine, but don't bring it down to 8.1. Because after all, government, you are buying T-bills at 34%, isn't it? So what are you losing? By allowing the old bond coupon rate of 19.1 stay.
Would that achieve the purpose of successfully restructuring the debt?
In restructuring the debt, you don't look at only one issue. There should be a combination of factors. When they do this, they should look at the fiscal consolidation. Can we be cut down some expenditure?
Oh, that has been suggested to government.
Sure. So yes, we are retaining the 19.1. We are stretching this to 10 years. We are cutting down this expenditure here so that we will get what we are looking for, isn't it? But no, at all cost, the bondholders should incur the loss of 55 to 60% because this is what we want to do. It should not be right.
Is that fair?
I don't want the word fair. There's no fairness in this world.
Okay, that's it.
But it is not right. Why impose the whole burden on me, a bondholder?
But these are alternatives that they could have considered. The minister is quite clear in his mind there is no alternative to this.
Well, I mean, let's talk to him. Because he is buying T-bills at 34%. Isn't it?
Yeah.
And the bondholders are saying, if you check this, it means we are carrying about 55% of the burden. Bring it down a bit. They're not asking for what?
Scrapping of the entire exercise.
We are, let's share the burden, but the burden of 55% or 60% on me is too high. It's too much. So let's keep the 19.1%, stretch it to 10 years as you are doing. But because you are buying tables at 34%, you are willing to do it, you pay for it. Let's have the 19.1 for the period, and not 8.1. The 8.1 is too low.
Is it the harshest? That's what the individual bondholders are saying.
It's too low. It's too harsh. It's too harsh. They should look at it again. I would have said, look, we are stretching this to 10 years. As I mentioned, for the new one, the maturity will be about 9.5, which is 10 years. Yeah, I'm still keeping the 19.1 coupon rate for the next 10 years. It will bring down the loss they are facing now. The loss of almost 55 to 60% will come down. And then we look at other areas where we have to cut some expenditure to make it up.
There's a question I wanted to connect to this because, and of course, because we are still talking about debt restructuring. This question is important because you know the finance sector in this country very well. There are some who will say that we've been through reform and now there is a domestic debt exchange.
Yeah.
Can the finance sector of Ghana survive all of this turbulence?
The answer is no. If we don't manage the domestic debt exchange program properly, the financial sector will be weakened such a way that it won't be able to perform the role that sector is supposed to perform. We should be very careful. The bond of 137 billion is huge.
Okay.
You look at the insurance companies, for example. You see, the insurance companies, the premium they collect are now in the government bonds. Mm-hmm. You understand? The premium, if it's a general business, is there for claims payment. Your car is involved in an accident, they have to pay from the claim, from the premium they collected from you and other people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, it's in the bonds, government has taken over the bonds. If there's a claim, how will they pay?
That's interesting.
How will they pay?
But I will not take an excuse if I have a claim before an insurance company.
You go there.
Yes, I will insist on getting my money.
And the insurance company cannot say, oh, the bond is with government. No.
Yeah.
The contract you have is with the insurance company.
Not with
government.
Yeah.
But the government, because of difficulty we are going through, has taken over 55% of the money. How will they pay the claims? That's general. Got to even life. It's even more serious with life.
Oh, okay.
Life, they have what they call endowment.
Mm-hmm.
Endowment, yes, Raymond, you are paying 2,000 cedis every month to the insurance company. After 10 years, you go for the money. Mm-hmm. Or 15 years, from 20 years. It's like savings that you are making.
Yeah.
These monies have been found in government bonds. Because of the difficulties we're going through, government has taken over about 55%, whatever. So when you go to the insurance company, 10 years ago I started saving, I need my money back. I said, oh, government has taken 55%. What will this do?
But is it not interesting that this same industry called insurance, we basically gave them very little option than to put their money into bonds?
Yes, unfortunately. You see, so some of them are saying that we are misled to put our money in government bond, knowing that you take the money one day. It's not a very right accusation.
I get you.
But I understand their desperation. So were we misled? They ask it.
It's a legitimate question.
Were we misled? We have done that. Now you are taking 55% of the money.
Okay. Now, because it's interesting how this goes. So when they put their money, if they have so much money sitting on their books and they have so much cash flow, you complain. You actually sanction them one way or the other. Ask them to pay something on it. If they actually go into real estate, you complain too.
Yes.
Making it the only viable option or one of the most reasonable options is to go into bonds. And yet now they have been affected by a domestic debt exchange.
Sure. And see, the effect it's going to have on the economy, on Ghanaians, is what worries me. You see, the confidence in government instruments is what we should watch.
Okay.
Because people may begin to say, oh, there's no point investing in government instruments. If I have my money, I wouldn't even buy Tesla bills. I'll put my money at home because it may happen again.
Oh, that's what people say.
Yes.
There's a committee that's been formed to look at the way forward with individual bondholders. Do you think that you shareholders, first, is there a step in the right direction? And do you think that shareholders should equally be brought on board?
I think so. I don't know what they see. They are dealing with the caretakers, not the shareholders. You cannot deal with my caretaker when I've not been consulted. You understand? At the end of the day, it will follow me. So let's also play a part. Let's express our views on this.
There's a conversation about those of you that have managed the economy before and probably have competence in this area, coming on board to help all of us fix our collective problem, because whether we like it or not, we are in this together as a country. Have anybody reach out to you?
It's a good idea. No, nobody has. It's a good idea. I mean, I made a point about a month ago that I'm prepared to support anything like that. The country belongs to all of us. If it flourishes, it affects all of us. If it goes down, we suffer. The pain we are going through, whether you know economics or not, you're part of it. Why don't we come together to resolve the issues?
Now, there's something to do with posturing of government that people talk about. So first, they said, if you don't accept this domestic debt exchange, you're on your own. The other point that's also been made is that we are in a very terrible situation. There are no credible alternatives on the table. We've also been told that, you see, it's not a very simple situation. If you do not, we will default. Is this posturing by government the right thing to do?
No, you see, we should manage our people with humility. If we go to them in a very humble way, they will respond in a very humble way. I've done that before. When I was a Minister of Finance, we had huge arrears to pay. We didn't have enough money. Okay. I was begging on my knees all the time, begging them.
Okay.
I owe you, Raymond, government owes you 10 million. I don't have it. Take 1 million, come back next week. Your first reaction may be, come on, you're destroying my capital. And almost all of them said so. But after a month or so, they understood my position. We became friends. Approached them in a very humble way. We're all Ghanaians. We're all people. If you have power, it doesn't make you superior. We're all the same. Now we are talking.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was a finance minister.
Yes.
It doesn't make a difference. So when you have that position, make sure you handle like this in a very humble way. I didn't have any difficulty after that. They saw my view. We don't have money to give to you. I owe you 10 million. I don't have the 10 million, but I can give you 1 million now. Raymond, you may be angry with me, but you may take 1 million, come back the following week. It was like that. And after 3-4 months, I paid almost all of them. At the beginning, they were angry with me. But it was my knees all the time. Please, you take 1 million, come back next week. If you meet the contractors, talk to them. It happened like that. Be humble in dealing with them. Some of them maybe give ideas.
Oh, okay.
Sure, if you do that, the ideas maybe come from them. You understand? We are in difficulty. Can you help us? Go and think about it.
The other conversation about what we should cut out of this budget, what expenditure items we should reduce so that we can have the leeway to exempt people and have the ability to proceed with the debt exchange program that's acceptable to people. People have been proposing government size reduction. Others have proposed that we should look at our capital expenditure. 27 billion is too much. Even last year, we didn't do that much, especially in austerity year. People would understand if we don't do as many capital intensive projects. What should we do with expenditure?
You see, we must understand that, if you are driving in a truck and on the hill having difficulty going, what do?
Stop.
Stop and offload some of the loads. When we were to go over the hill,
Yeah.
you can come back for them.
Okay.
We are in difficulty now. We should cut down expenditure. The 209, Prof. Mills reduced the ministries from 27 to 23. You know that?
Oh, okay.
Yes. Kufuor worked with 27 ministries. Prof. Mills cut it down from 27 to 23. The fiscal deficit, which we inherited, was 14.5% of GDP. Prof. Mills said, well, we have to cut the whole thing down. In the first year, we aimed at cutting down to 9.4%. At the end of the year, we had 9.7.
Still within 9.
Yeah. And 2010, we started growing. So if you cut down expenditure, it does not mean that you're not going to grow. Now we cannot carry the load. Let's offload some of these. And then when we get over the hill, we'll come for them.
This question is at the core of all of these. During the First World War, Woodrow Wilson says this will be the last world war to end all wars. Will this be our last domestic debt exchange or debt restructuring program? Would it be the last time we will need any form of debt restructuring? Would it be the last time we'll go through such difficulties as a country so that we will never repeat it again? Can we say never again? If you are leader of this country today, what would you do differently to prevent us from getting into this position?
I will still discipline.
Discipline.
Sure. And corruption. And discipline breeds corruption. If for discipline, somebody's money.
Okay.
You're paying for a job done for government. Why should you take a portion? It's evil. Let's try to bring down corruption, be disciplined, and manage our resources. We'll not go about begging for money because we have the money. A country that has huge gold resources, how can we be poor? Gold is money, isn't it? You have gold, yet you're going to beg for money.
Yeah.
So let's be disciplined.
Okay.
Let us try to control corruption. It's a problem.
What can we do to control corruption?
Discipline. The people who are found to be taken, they should, to be involved in corruption, should be punished.
Yeah, okay. Of course, we have the special prosecutor. We have those institutions, Shraj and Co., who are supposed to help us make sure that our system is sanitized of all administrative injustice and corruption. Are they doing the work you expect?
Well, I'm talking about discipline. You are not disciplined. I'm not disciplined. That's what the problem is. You see, if we decide that as a nation, we are disgracing ourselves. We talked about the Paris Club meeting.
Yeah.
I haven't heard about it. But if it happened like that, we should not be ashamed. 2001, we opted for HIPIC.
Yeah.
How many years now? Virtually, we are going back.
That's 22 years from now.
Yes. Why? Now look at the African continent. How many countries have gone through this? And look at our resources. 10 years ago, the whole world was talking about Ghana. The whole world. Ghana, Ghana, Ghana. How come that 10 years after we are begging for debt relief? Why? It's indiscipline. And nothing. It's indiscipline. And we should look at it seriously. How do we, as a nation, become disciplined?
Okay.
How do we, as a nation, take control of our resources?
Now, maybe there are two quick questions I want to conclude this conversation with. The first is, It sounded like your advice is what government took anyway, having to buy more gold. Because last time I spoke to you, you're talking about increasing our gold reserves at the central bank level. But this time around, we are using it for oil rather. So the presumption is that we buy more gold, we go and actually get cheaper oil with it. Gold for oil. Good move?
Buying more gold by the central bank is a good move.
Okay.
I support that. But using gold for butter, as butter for oil, I don't support it. Especially if it's not going to bring in crude oil. If it's crude oil, we are going to rehabilitate Tama oil refinery, or we're going to give the crude to, I hear a new refinery is being built.
Yes.
Okay. And these two companies are going to refine the crude for us to have the byproducts. The inflation we're going through are from the byproducts that we are importing.
Yeah.
I mentioned
Diesel,
that the balance
petrol.
of, yes, petrol.
In fact, diesel went up by almost 196% in December.
It's a major source of inflation. They're driving inflation. So if we bring the crude oil and it's processed, and we get the byproducts here, the prices will be cheaper. But if we're going to use gold to bring in
the finished products,
we are importing inflation from outside. If we bring the crude oil for Tama Oil to refine, or even for the new refinery to also refine, the byproducts will come out of the refining what crude. And the products will be reasonable.
Okay.
But using gold to bring in petroleum products already refined outside, you are importing inflation and you're not providing jobs for your people. So I support the buying of more gold by central bank, 100%. But using the gold to bring in petroleum products and not crude for refinery, I have a problem with that.
This question is important to many people because of what's currently happening. How do we generally, I mean, if younger people sit around you and ask you this question, is the future bright for Ghanaians, especially younger people? Is the future bright? When are we going to get out of our current difficulties? How many years will it take for us to get back on our feet? For us to get back to the time we're having the highest growth rate in Africa and across the world? For us to get back to the time we were seen as the shining star of Africa? How long would it take us to get there?
It shouldn't take more than 2 years to bring the economy back. We have the resources. You know what? Let us look at the fiscal consolidation properly. The revenue we are mobilizing, the expenditure. Make sure that we don't allow the expenditure to grow faster than the revenue. Let's make sure that the private sector is encouraged to invest properly. Don't destroy them. Look at our commodities. Apart from cocoa, which one takes more than 2 years to bear fruits? Cassava? Tomatoes? What? 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Rice? Why should it take more than 18 months to bring this economy back?
That's an interesting point.
Why? It shouldn't take more than 18 months to 2 years. I don't think so.
I'm asking you this question because
I'm a businessman.
I understand that. But also because you, more than any other person, you have expressed interest in running this state. So this question is directly about, if you were in charge today, what are you going to do differently to bring us back on our feet?
You know, the energy sector is so critical. That's what I'm saying. We are lucky a very big refinery is being put up now. Within a month or so, I heard we'll start refining crude. I'll make sure that thermal oil is also rehabilitated immediately. Inflation will go down because the source of inflation is partly from the energy sector. Mm-hmm. It affects agricultural sector, because agricultural production, distribution, energy affects it. You know that. Because of petroleum, LPG, all those products. The mining sector, gold is everywhere. Central banks should continue to buy the gold. Our currency will be stable because central bank balance sheet, if we have gold as part of the reserves, will control the risk, manage the risk in the balance sheet. You understand? The moment we get the currency stabilized, the moment we get inflation under control, bring inflation below 10%, get the city stabilized, grow the economy beyond 7-8%. Look, 2010, we grew by over 7%. Mm-hmm. 2011, it was 14 point something because of the oil. We take the oil out, it was about 9% or so. 2012, about 8 point something percent. 2013, about 7%. If we had grown by 10%, sorry, 7 or 8% for 10 years, we would have made it. Okay? Okay. It's not be difficult for us to move the economy, grow the economy at 7, 8%, 9% for 10 years. When we have such a huge resources. Of late, we have been discovered lithium. Mm-hmm. What don't we have in this country? As I mentioned, apart from cocoa, no crop takes more than 18 months to bear fruits, to germinate. Tell me. So why can't you bring this economy back within 18 months, within 2 years? It's doable.
I see.
It's doable. It should take more than 2 years. I don't think so. Because everything, do we have to, for example, buy tomatoes from outside?
That's interesting.
Cassava?
From Burkina Faso.
Well, you're telling me. I mean, look at cassava, for example. I gave a talk and talked about cassava, the uses of cassava. Cassava alone can turn this economy around. We are second largest producer of cassava, whatever, in Africa. We come after Nigeria. The whole world, we are number 5. Cassava is a Microsoft after product everywhere. Why are we not taking advantage of cassava? We have so many products. Let's encourage our people, resource them. And within 2 years, this economy will come back. It's a very strong economy. It's mismanagement which is creating problems for us. And it is discipline, you and I. We have everything.
But I don't manage this economy. I've never managed it before.
No, but we're disciplined.
Okay, if you say that. It's a national call.
I hear some people talking about rice, that they want special rice, how do you call it?
Yes, you want to grow local rice. You want people to consume the local rice.
The foreign one, they describe it as what?
The long grain perfume rice.
Perfume rice.
Yes.
Perfume rice. They want perfume rice. In discipline, what's perfume rice?
Oh, but what's wrong with having a taste or a palate for something that's nice?
You eat what you have. Really? If I will not allow perfume rice to come in. Let's eat what we have. What's perfume rice? That's what I'm saying. We are disciplined, you and I. Why perfume rice? Let's eat what we have.
I see.
I will not allow perfume rice to come in when we have our own rice here. Perfume. What perfume? How do you define perfume?
Okay. It's an interesting conversation.
Come on. I will not allow that to come. There will be no perfume rice in Ghana. Let's eat our rice. We will not import even chicken. We will eat our own chicken. We are lucky. We have everything, my brother. Everything. Except that, as I mentioned, we are not disciplined.
Doc, My final question is, believe in politics and politicians. When we had this crisis come up, there's a lot of people who started saying, you cannot trust a politician. You cannot trust Ghana's politics to produce results. It's almost like a spiral. We are in a cyclical mode. We never move genuinely forward beyond a decade or so. Can we ever change that?
We can, you know. I worked with Prof. Mills. At the time, our vision was to make sure that we serve Ghanaians better. That we provided, say, water for Ghanaians, good water, just for the young people. So money was not our problem.
Okay.
Okay. And we're there to serve everybody. Okay. I go to church, and in the Bible, Christ said, what the left hand does, the right you don't know. You understand? So my philosophy has been not to talk about things I do. I'll be told by those who advise in politics that it's not that in politics. Politics shall tell people what to tell them
what you do.
Yeah. But otherwise, see, once we were there, money was not our problem. And we enjoyed working for this country. All along, we're asking for God's guidance. What do we do? How do we get ourselves out of this situation? How do we do something to make Ghanaians happy? And we succeeded to some extent. It can be done. I think it's because leadership. See, Ghanaians are not very bad people, no. But if they see that you are taking advantage of them, they will not believe you.
Okay.
But if let them know that this is a situation. I have not come to give you money. I don't have it. But I can do this to help you. Let's work together. If we try that, they will change the mentality. But right now, you go to Parliament, after 6 months, you have Land Cruiser, you have this, you have that. You go back, they see you as a changed person. Hey, the guy has so much money now. They want to also take the part. But if we start from there, the top should change from the top. And those down there will respond. They will respond.
I'm grateful to you for your time.
They're not very bad people. Ghanaians are very good people. They'll respond. But we, at the top, we are causing the problem. Demonstration effect.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Kwabena Dufour, many thanks to you for watching. And Doc, I appreciate your time and for welcoming us with some of the ideas and thoughts that you have said today. We should do it more often. I think it's interesting to hear the very alternatives that sometimes you bring to the table. Well, many thanks to you for joining us front tonight.